My name is Dorothy Lane. I'm 66 years old, a retired senior accountant, a widow, and until recently, I believed I was still respected in my own family. After nearly 4 decades of balancing books, preparing reports, and showing up early to the office while others rolled in late, I finally retired last Friday. No big party, no champagne, just a quiet farewell and a cardboard box filled with old desk things and a heart full of memories. That evening, I came home feeling proud. I'd planned a small dinner with my son Caleb and his wife Savannah. Just something warm and simple. I made baked chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans, my way of celebrating a life chapter closing. As we sat around the kitchen table, I smiled and gently said, "Today was my last day at work. I'm finally retired." The reaction wasn't what I expected. Caleb froze his fork halfway to his mouth. Savannah blinked, her wine glass pausing midair. Then came the words, "I'll never forget." "We didn't agree to that," Caleb said flatly. "You didn't talk to us first." I tried to keep smiling, but my lips felt stiff. "Talk to you about retiring." "Mom," Savannah cut in sharply. "We've got bills to pay, a house to maintain. We can't afford to feed another adult who's not contributing." My chest tightened. I thought, maybe we could celebrate. Savannah sighed, setting her glass down with a loud clink. "My dad's 71 and still works 3 days a week at the hardware store. You're 66, not ancient." I looked at my son, hoping for some sign of warmth, some memory of everything we'd shared. But Caleb leaned back in his chair, eyes cold. "You'll need to find something, Mom. Anything, even part-time work. You can't just sit around here on our dime." I swallowed hard. This wasn't the moment I had imagined on my drive home from the office. I thought they might be happy for me. I thought they'd maybe toast with the cheap white wine I brought home just for the occasion. Instead, they were telling me I was a burden. Savannah pushed her plate away. "We're not trying to be harsh, just realistic." Realistic. I stared down at my dinner. The chicken had gone cold. I managed to nod. "You're right. I should have discussed it with you first." Caleb relaxed slightly. "We're not monsters, Mom. We just can't support someone who's not pulling their weight." Nodded again, even as my hands trembled beneath the table. That night, after the dishes were cleared and they disappeared into the living room to watch a show, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring into the space they'd just left. 40 years of work, and I was now just another mouth to feed. That night, I lay on the twin bed in the small guest room they'd given me, tucked away at the back of the house, down the hall from their master bedroom. The ceiling fan spun softly above me, but my mind was anything but calm. I couldn't sleep. I just stared up, replaying their words again and again. "You didn't talk to us first. We can't afford to feed another adult. Find something. Anything." Was that what I had become? An expense? The thin drywall did little to block their voices. I heard them clear as if they were standing outside my door. "I can't believe she just dropped that on us," Savannah said, her voice sharp. "She thinks she can just live here without helping," Caleb replied. "She didn't even ask, just assumed." "She's been here 2 years, Caleb," Savannah said. 2 years of free food, electricity, laundry, detergent, gas, everything. And now she thinks she gets to retire." I pressed my hand to my chest, willing my heart to stay calm. 2 years. I moved in after my husband passed. I sold the house and gave them a portion of the proceeds, more than enough to help with renovations. They called it investing in the family, and now I was dead. "Wait, what if she refuses to work?" Savannah asked. There was a pause, and then Caleb said in a low, cold voice, "Then we'll talk to her about assisted living. Take her pension and make it work." I closed my eyes. Assisted living, pension. It wasn't concerned. They were discussing it as logistics. They were already planning where to place me, what to take, what I was worth. I thought of the years I'd worked late to afford Caleb's college tuition, the times I skipped vacations so he could attend sports camps, the suit I bought him for his first job interview. None of that mattered now. I wasn't Dorothy, the mother who had bent herself backward to raise a good man. I was Dorothy, the liability. Their voices faded, replaced by the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of settling wood. But in that quiet, something changed inside me. They thought I was powerless, but I wasn't weak. I was patient. And patience, well, that's where they'd made their first mistake. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen just as Savannah was buttering toast and Caleb was scrolling through his phone, nursing a cup of coffee. They both glanced up when they saw me, tension thick in the air. I could feel them bracing for another round of uncomfortable conversation, but I smiled gently and sat down at the table as if nothing had happened. "I've been thinking," I said, wrapping my hands around a lukewarm mug. "You're both right." Caleb blinked. "We are." I nodded slowly, as if the thought had come to me in the night after deep reflection. A woman my age should contribute to the household. I've been retired for one day and already feel aimless. Savannah raised an eyebrow, cautious. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'll find work, something part-time. Just until I figure things out." Caleb straightened, his demeanor shifting into that of a man who believed he was now in charge. "Actually, I might be able to help with that." "Really?" "There's an open janitorial position at Ashland Solutions, one of the office buildings I manage. Cleaning, organizing supply closets, wiping down break rooms, nothing too strenuous." I let my eyes widen slightly, as if the idea were unfamiliar but not unwelcome. "You'd think I'd be a good fit. You'd be perfect. Punctual, quiet, respectful, and grateful," he added, almost as an afterthought. Savannah leaned back in her chair, visibly relaxing. "Honest work is honest work. It'll give you some structure and show that you're pulling your weight." I smiled again, nodding. "When would I start?" "Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. I'll give your name to HR and let Mr. Graves, the building manager, know you're coming. He's a friend. He'll understand. It's a family situation." "A family situation," I repeated softly. Savannah reached out and patted my hand. "See, that wasn't so hard, don't." It wasn't. They thought I'd accepted my place, that I was ashamed, that I'd learned my lesson. But in truth, I was just stepping onto the stage. Let the performance begin. Monday morning arrived, crisp and cool, the kind of spring day that made Portland feel almost gentle. By 6:45 a.m., the house was quiet, except for the sound of the coffee machine and Caleb rustling around in his room, getting ready for work. He'd left a set of cleaning supplies in a plastic bag by the front door the night before: mop, gloves, and a neon yellow vest, as if preparing a child for their first day of school. I'd thanked him graciously. At 7 o'clock, he left for the office. At 7:30, I sat on the back porch with a crossword puzzle and a cup of tea. By 8:15, my phone buzzed. Caleb's name flashed across the screen, all capital letters and panic. I picked up on the second ring. "Mom, where are you?" I let my voice carry just a hint of confusion. "At home, dear." "Why?" "You were supposed to be at work at 7. You didn't show. Leonard, my boss, is furious. I vouched for you." "Oh no," I murmured, pressing a hand to my chest like I'd just forgotten to take the pie out of the oven. "I thought it was 9. My goodness, I'm so sorry. This old brain of mine, this isn't about memory," he snapped. "I told Leonard you'd be dependable, that hiring you was the smart thing. Now I look like a complete idiot." I made a soft noise of concern. "What did he say?" "He asked why I was so personally involved in hiring a janitor." I had to explain. "You're my mother living with us and needed something to do." Did he understand? A heavy silence. "I don't know," Caleb finally muttered, "but I've got another chance to fix it. You're coming in tomorrow. No excuses." "Of course, dear. I'll set 3 alarms." He hung up without another word. I sat there a while longer, sipping my tea as a breeze rustled the hydrangeas in the garden. Inside, Savannah clinked dishes in the sink, humming some pop song she'd always found catchy. They had no idea the stage was shifting beneath their feet. Today, Caleb was embarrassed. Tomorrow, he would be exposed. And all I had to do was show up. They say people reveal who they are not in what they say, but in what they forget to hide. 2 months before the retirement dinner, I was rinsing a teacup when I noticed a pile of papers scattered across the kitchen counter. Savannah had been working from home more often lately, and she wasn't as tidy as she believed. Her firm, Crescent Bell Accounting, was one of those boutique financial consultancies that specialized in small business clients, and while I had long stopped analyzing spreadsheets for a living, some habits die hard. I scanned the papers out of curiosity. Office supply invoices, maintenance reports, petty cash reimbursements, normal stuff until the numbers started talking. A pack of printer paper billed at $842, a monthly HVAC repair quoted at $1,234, and then the same transaction, same date, but on a different sheet, $537. At first I assumed it was a mistake, but the differences were too clean, Too deliberate. Someone had altered these numbers and Savannah had left them right next to her half-drunk iced coffee. I took photos of everything on my phone while she was in the other room talking loudly to a friend about brunch plans. That night after dinner, I called Ruth Marston, a friend from my early accounting days who now worked in forensic audits. We hadn't spoken in over a year, but she owed me a favor or two. "Can you check something for me, Ruth?" I asked quietly, off the record, strictly confidential. 3 days later, she sent me the real reports from Crescent Bell's internal database. The comparisons were damning. Savannah had been padding expenses systematically, consistently, inflating numbers by $500 here, $600 there. Over 8 months, nearly $18,000 had been redirected, quietly. It stiffened off into what I assumed were shopping sprees, girls' trips, and those designer purses she always said were discount finds. I spent that entire weekend compiling everything, creating a clean, anonymous folder with labeled evidence, timelines, vendor comparisons, and even screenshots of altered files left on her laptop desktop. I created a new email account, typed carefully, precisely. To Mr. Harrison Bell, Managing Partner, Crescent Bell, Accounting. Subject, urgent internal concern. The message was short, factual, and free of emotion. I wasn't doing this to be petty. I was doing this because Savannah had looked me in the eye and laughed when she talked about my old lady retirement dreams. Let's see how her future held up when someone finally looked behind her. Polished smile. The front door slammed hard at 5:42 p.m. I looked up from the crossword puzzle I'd barely touched all afternoon and waited. No heels clicking down the hallway, no greeting, no usual call of, "Hi, I'm home from Savannah." Just silence. Then, the unmistakable sound of muffled sobbing from the hallway. She appeared in the living room moments later, eyes swollen, mascara smudged, blouse wrinkled and clinging to her in a way that looked uncomfortable and careless. Her tote bag dangled from her shoulder, half open. "Savannah." I stood, keeping my voice gentle. "What happened?" She dropped onto the couch like gravity had won. "They suspended me." I blinked. "What?" "They got an anonymous email this afternoon with documents, expense reports, screenshots, bank details." Her hands were trembling as she pulled a crumpled tissue from her pocket. "They said it looked like embezzlement." I sat beside her slowly, as if the weight of the accusation might break the air between us. "That's very serious." "You think I don't know that?" she snapped, then immediately covered her mouth, apologetic. "Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm freaking out." She leaned forward, elbows on knees, wiping at her eyes. "Mr. Bell, my boss, called me into his office. He said the email came from a secure burner address. All the files were attached. Vendor invoices, real ones, next to the altered ones I submitted." I said nothing, just folded my hands in my lap. "He said they're launching a full internal audit and brought in external investigators. I'm on unpaid suspension, starting today." She looked at me, then really looked and whispered, "I think someone's been watching me for months. They knew exactly what to look for." I kept my expression soft. "That sounds terrifying." "It is. If they press charges, if they dig into the other months, I'm done. I could lose my license." Everything outside, a breeze picked up, and wind chimes on the porch began to hum. I reached out and placed a hand over hers. "Well," I said kindly, "you know what they say, sweetheart." She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "What? Honest work is honest work." Her lip trembled, and I gave her hand a gentle squeeze. But sometimes, dishonesty comes home first. The next morning, I dressed carefully in the janitor's uniform Brandon had so helpfully provided, a navy polo, khaki work pants, and a pair of rubber-soled shoes that pinched slightly at the toes. Brandon waited in the kitchen, arms crossed, coffee cooling beside him. "You ready?" he asked curtly. I nodded, tying my hair back. "Yes, ready." The car ride to Ashland Solutions was quiet, filled with the kind of silence that pulsed. Brandon kept his eyes on the road, fingers drumming against the steering wheel, jaw clenched like he was biting down on panic. "Today," he said without looking at me, "there will be no confusion. You will show up, you will work, you will not make me look foolish again." I turned to him with a soft expression. "Of course, Brandon." He glanced sideways, suspicious, "And none of this memory game stuff." I simply smiled. "Today will be different." Ashland Solutions loomed ahead, glass and steel and corporate polish. He parked near the main entrance and grabbed a mop and bucket from the trunk. Take these, look the part. My boss, Mr. Graves, does a walkthrough every morning. I took the mop, steady hands betraying none of the amusement blooming in my chest. As we walked through the lobby, Brandon's demeanor shifted. He smoothed his shirt, stood taller, and threw a greeting at the front desk like a man in control. Then, I saw him. Elliot Graves, CEO, my old friend, still sharp in his 60s, dressed in charcoal gray and confidence. Mr. Graves, Brandon called out, "Good morning." I wanted to introduce. Elliot's eyes found mine. He stopped walking. "Brandon," Elliot said slowly, frowning. "Why is Dorothy Lane holding a mop?" Brandon's smile froze. "She's my mother, our new janitor." Elliot's expression darkened. "Brandon, do you have any idea who your mother actually is?" 10 minutes later, we sat in Elliot Graves' corner office. Sunlight streaming through tall glass windows overlooking downtown Portland. Elliot leaned back in his chair, clearly stunned. Brandon sat across from him, flushed and fidgeting like a boy caught cheating on a test. "Dorothy," Elliot said gently, "what in God's name is going on?" I folded my hands in my lap, composed. My son believed I was financially dependent on him. He and his wife suggested I work as a janitor. I agreed to observe. Elliot turned to Brandon, brows furrowed. "Did you really think your mother needed a cleaning job?" Brandon's mouth opened, then closed. "She said she retired. She moved in with us. I assumed, You assumed she had nothing." Elliot finished. "Brandon, your mother owns 37% of this company. Without her early investment, I'd still be working out of my garage." Brandon paled. "I don't understand." "You don't have to," I said quietly. "You just need to know the truth. I stayed quiet all these years to see what kind of man you'd become without the shadow of money hanging over you. And now," he asked, voice cracking, "now, I've seen enough." Elliot pushed back from the desk. "Brandon, I'm terminating your employment effective immediately. Not because of this misunderstanding, but because of your arrogance, your judgment, and your complete lack of respect." Brandon looked at me, eyes hollow. "Mom, no," I said, my voice firmer. "You don't get to call me that and treat me like a bill to be paid. I raised you better." The silence that followed was heavier than the high-rise air. I stood slowly. "Elliot, thank you for your time, and thank you for keeping this place alive. I think now I'm truly ready to retire, and this time, I meant it." 2 weeks later, I moved into a small but sunny apartment just across the river, a place with creaky floors, a kitchen that smelled like fresh lemons, and a reading nook where the afternoon light poured in just right. I bought myself new furniture, nothing fancy, just mine. I didn't hear much from Brandon or Savannah after that. Word travels fast in small industries, especially when one spouse is fired for insubordination and the other is under financial investigation. They haven't apologized. I'm not waiting for them to. You see, the biggest lesson I learned through all of this wasn't about money or respect or even justice. It was about boundaries. As mothers, especially those of us from another generation, we were taught that sacrifice is love, that silence is grace, that being needed is the same as being valued. But that's a lie. Being needed without being respected isn't love. It's use, and I won't be used again. So, to anyone listening, if you've ever been treated like a burden by the very people you helped build, take a breath, stand tall, and remember, you don't owe anyone your dignity. You earned that. You get to keep it.